Hello, my arty friends. I'm away this week on vacation, so I thought I would prepare a video. And what I wanted to do was a redo of this image, which I'll put up on the screen here, of this piece I did 2 weeks ago. I wasn't really happy with the vase, the color of the vase, and the demarcation that you could see from the two different colors of paint application. There's that line in the middle of the vase. Wasn't super happy with that. I liked the tablecloth pattern that I got from using the fabric. I wasn't crazy about the background, and I didn't feel like the colors on the flowers were vibrant enough, especially the white, just sort of color selection issues. So I thought I would redo that. So I spent the morning, I went for a little walk with Lucy. It was overcast today, so it wasn't too hot. And I cut these flowers. I recommend bringing scissors with you so you're not trying to rip things out if you cut it and then you kind of shake it. When I got home, I also double checked, I tried to shake off any little bugs or critters. And so I might put at the end of this, I'll put a little photo montage, video montage of Lucy and I, well, mostly Lucy, walking this morning. If you want a little fluffy tail fix, you can watch to the end. So the other thing is, to get rid of that line, I thought I would do a technique that I had done a few weeks ago using collage directly on the gel plate. So instead of creating the vase by pulling off the paint and then adding paint, I'm going to use a previously made gel print, and I'm going to cut out the vase shape and I'm going to put it face down on the gel plate to do a collage in place, or chine collé, where you have the paper stuck, the thin paper stuck. So these were my candidates for the vase. I thought that would be a nice simple shape. That would be bright, but maybe not too plain. I thought that would be interesting, or even this shape here. Some randomness with gold I thought would be cool. This is a black deli paper with a stencil design. I thought that might make a cool like square vase, but I wasn't sure about the colors I wanted to use. I didn't think that would work. I thought that was too plain. I thought this area would be nice, but we just did last week, or 2 weeks ago now. I guess the picture I showed you was from 3 weeks ago, because this is coming out the next week. Anyhow, math is hard. This would be cool maybe for another time, because last week or 2 weeks ago, I just did a vase flower with this sort of aqua color. That maybe is a bit too bright for the vase. This was okay, but I think I might stay away from the purples so much this time. I wasn't crazy about how purple that bottom part was. So I came with this one. I think this is the one we're going to use for the vase. Initially, I thought I wanted to do a rectangular vase, but then I decided I want to keep the whole print within a 8.5 by 11 paper. The image I showed you, that was on a very large piece of paper, where the image was the size of my big gel plate here that I call Big Peggy. And Big Peggy is 12 by 14. So I'm going to keep it smaller than that. So I thought, instead of doing a rectangle vase, I'll do like a short round vase. And I thought this print would be cool because it's already got light on one side and dark on the other. Now when I'm painting in or filling in the flowers, I'm going to have to remember that this is going to be upside down. So the light's going to be, well, it depends which way I cut it. So I have to make a note. If I want the light to be coming from this side in the finished product, then I need to cut it out this way and turn it over like that. So it's always backwards on the gel plate, but then when you pull it up, it's forwards again. So let's start off by making our vase shape. And I think I want like a round squat vase. And I do want, like I said, to stay within this size paper. Hopefully I'm on screen. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to fold this in half, and I'm going to cut like a round shape with a little lip on it. So I'm just going to use this pen here. So let's do kind of a round shape. I don't want to use the whole gel print, and just maybe like a square lip. So let's cut that out and see how it looks. And then we can adjust it, or we can use the other half if we don't like it. So like I said, my hope for today's video is to not have to do a lot of editing, because this week I have to get packed. And I've got a lot of things to do before we go. So that line was just a guideline. Now, is that too fat? Let's see, is it going to fit on? I think it's a bit too fat. I'm going to cut it down just a little bit more. By folding in half, we get a nice symmetrical vase. I think the vase I did on the one a few weeks ago was maybe a little bit wonky because I freehanded it. So that's fun. That's kind of like a whimsical shape. And we can add some detail over it after to, you know, add a bit more shading or a bit more highlights. So I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to put it down, face down on Big Peggy. So I did it so that the light side is going to be over here. So when I do the flower colorization, I'll have to remember that. So the light's coming from this way. No, is that right? No. Yes, light's coming from this way. So when I turn it over, the light will be coming from this way. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's step one. Now the next step is we're going to decide on our arrangement. So I think those are kind of cool. I like that there's leaves and there's that. This, I'd like to have a big bloom. I think that would be cute. I don't want it in the center, so I think we'll put it over here. And let's see, I like these sort of buds, but let's not use all of them. Let's cut this down. We'll do this maybe over here, and then this in the middle. Now whatever you put down first, after you've applied the paint, that's going to be in the foreground. So you're working backwards. So what about, I don't want to overcrowd it too much, but I do want some more flower shapes. So even though these are weeds and they're not necessarily flowers, I can colorize them like they're flowers. So I think this would be pretty up there. And I think I'm going to cut this so that I can lay it more flat when the time comes. Cut that into a couple, there we go. So I'll be able to flatten that. I don't think I mentioned last time that when you're using botanicals on the jelly plate, you don't want anything too sharp. So this had some leaves that I liked, but they had sharp pieces to them, so I didn't want to use that. And again, I want to make sure this is going to fit on an 8.5 by 11. So far so good. I'm just trying to decide. I think this one we'll put like there, and then maybe some leaves or some sort of foliage in the middle. But not too many leaves. And if you put your vein side down, you get a better impression. Maybe we'll pretend that these leaves are coming off of this big flower here. So we'll put a couple leaves there. So once I decide on my composition, I should probably take a photo of it. Let's see. And again, you have to backwards think, if that's a word. So I take a picture of it, or I can just bring that up there, and then we'll put this leaf here. I'm not a floral ranger, so don't email me. And we need a stem, something that's going to be like a stem going up to that flower that we can color in. This is more like a, if we take some of these off. Put that down, like actually maybe the other way. What I'll try to do is I'll try to grab it and then move it off. And then we'll do this one here. Oh, that smells good. I don't know what that is, but I like that smell. Maybe this can be more like our stem. So I'm just going to cut it like that. And I'll have to put that underneath like that. Okay, because if I try to put this flower this way, I'm not really going to get the bloom. I'll just get the edges of it, so I'm going to put it face down. The other thing I didn't like about the one that I showed you earlier is that I didn't think I took off enough paint from the flower area of it. So I'm going to try to make sure I take off enough paint. And I wasn't crazy about the blue, and because the print that we're going to use for our vase has black in it, I'm going to use black open this time. So I'm just kind of finalizing this layout, and you know, it's probably not going to look exactly like this by the time I get it back on the plate. Okay, so I'm thinking that should be good. And then instead of using fabric on the top to take the paint off, I'm going to use this placemat from the Dollarama, and I'm going to use that to press the flowers down. Okay, so let's get maybe a file folder or something that is firm that we can keep that arrangement that we've decided on. Just checking that we're recording. I'm going to zoom out a little bit because I can see that I missed the top of that. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take this off kind of in one piece as much as I can. And I probably won't go back. I'll put these on top knowing I want to put them down first. And that there. Take these little pieces off. So I'm not going to lift this off. I'm going to apply the paint on here. And then we're going to use this fabric on the bottom to remove paint and make a pattern. Put our flowers, and then we'll add this to pick up the paint. If I find there's too much paint, then I might use maybe some mottled up baby wipe or paper to remove a bit more paint. Okay, so we're going to use, instead of using the ultramarine blue with the Payne's gray that I used last time, I'm just going to use carbon black. I didn't have this paint last time, I just bought this one, so I'm glad I have it. So this is open, means it's slow drying, so we'll have lots of working time to put our arrangement down and lift up the paint. So most of this is going to be in real time. I might do a little bit in fast time when I'm colorizing the flowers. So I want to make sure this is down so that I don't get paint seeping underneath it. I'm just going to go slowly, and the paint is going to help the pickup paint, especially not necessarily this paint, but the pickup paint is going to help us seal that gel print piece to the final pull. So I'm going to go a bit bigger than I need so that we have lots of room to work with. And the other thing is, I think I had maybe too much paint down last time. So I'm going to remove a bit of paint. So I'm going to brayer off. I want this a bit thinner than I had it when I did the initial piece a few weeks ago so that we have more spaces showing. Okay, that seems a little bit thinner. Okay, now we're going to put this down like so, keeping the stems inside our vase container. That flower here, I'm going to sneak these back in, and this one I think we're going to put over here. That might be off the page. Let's just rein that in a little bit so it's not so. I still want it to fit in that size paper. Okay, so I'm going to put this one down at the bottom first. So this is just from a fabric sample book. Okay, and then we're going to use this. I should probably take that tag off, but I'm not going to. And we're going to press down. And you really want to squish it so you get the impression of the flowers. And remember, you don't want anything sharp. Okay, let's see how much paint that took off. Probably not enough. I kind of like the swirliness. I'm going to just kind of add a bit more here. Just take off a little bit more paint. Make sure that that moved a bit. If we have a little bit of a glow, and then I'm just gonna soften some of that black. Oh, there's a little bug. Sorry, bug. I know you guys like me to not kill them, but that one didn't look like a friendly one. Okay, and I'm going to just press this down one more time to see if we can get that sort of circular impression back. Because I liked that, but I want it a bit more faint. Okay, that's pretty good. Make sure this is full. Let's take a little bit, see if we can take a bit more off there. So I think our tablecloth might end up being mostly black, which I'm okay with given the vase color. Okay, now we're going to lift these off. So if you're watching this video, I appreciate it very much. Let's see. Get more paint off there. So I'm going to take these off, and then we're going to let it dry. Try to get a little bit more detail there. Pick off these little pieces. And then I'm going to stop the camera, and then once this is dry, we'll come back and colorize it. In the meantime, I'm going to think about how I want to add the color. Okay, so that took about 20 minutes to dry. Actually went and had some lunch. I decided, I think I still will use pan pastels to colorize the foliage and the flowers. So just remember the vase is going to look something like this. And so it's got some orange, some pink, pinkish purple, kind of like a bronze, and there's some nice green there. So I'm going to try to kind of stick to those colors, some purple, pink, orange, and the greens in the foliage. I think for the base, well, I'll figure out what I'm going to use as my pull color after I colorize this. Let me just grab my little pan pastel spongy palette. And I like using pan pastels on the gel plate because they are dry. They're a dry medium. They're not like regular pastels. I know a lot of people go, oh, I don't like pastels. They're too chalky. These do not feel chalky. So I'm just going to put a little bit of highlights first. Now with pan pastel, whatever, or with the gel plate, whatever you put down first is going to be in the foreground, in the top layer. So you have to keep that in mind. And it is tricky to blend pan pastels directly on the plate, so it would be better to blend it on this little foamy palette. So I'm going to just take my time and kind of do this, and I'll probably put this on fast forward, or not fast forward, but fast speed, and we'll see where we end up. So I'm going to be doing some blending using the palette, and a little bit, here I'll show you. So if I take this, I can kind of blend that a little bit, very slightly, and then I can go to a darker color and go in there. And I think what I'm going to do after I've got the pan pastel on is I'm going to paint over the pan pastel with some white paint, just to really have those colors pop a little bit more than they did on the other project I did a few weeks ago that I showed you. So even if I blend on top here, it's not going to show on the other layer. And before I go to fast speed, I should also mention the other nice thing about using pan pastels on the gel plate is that you pick it up with acrylic paint, which basically seals the pan pastels down. I often forget to say that, so you don't really have to spray a fixative. You can, there might be a fine little amount that might come away, but in general, it really keeps everything in place. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to speed through this. I might do a bit of a voiceover here and there if I feel like there's something especially interesting to talk about. So I'm going to be listening to a video while I do this. I'm going to take my time. This is another reason I want to do a redo, is because when I'm streaming, I have to be fast. I can't take too much time doing these things. So I'm just going to kind of take it easy and go a little slower and try to really do a good job of this botanical. All right, so we'll see you once we've got this colorized, and we'll discuss what pull colors to use. So I've decided to leave the sped up portions just silent and not add any music, because I will be coming in quite often to talk in real time. So this way you don't have to worry about the music levels, and you can just enjoy the silence. And to clean off between colors, you just wipe it on a dry paper towel, and that gets most of the color off, and then you're not really contaminating there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use a little bit of sort of some orange in here, and then I'm going to blend it with some pink. And a bit more orange. I don't know if that's going to show, but it looks pretty. Okay, back to the sped up version. So here I just want to mention that I used the purple for the vein, the light green on the edges, and then I mixed purple with the dark green to try to blend the purple to the green. And then I went over again with the light green to really try to make it a solid color. The other thing I wanted to mention is that Pan Pastel was its own company, but in the last year it was been bought out by Golden, and they just released a bunch of new colors. So one of my friends, Dee Dee Willingham, she got all the new colors. So if you want to check out the new colors of Pan Pastels, you should check out her channel. I'll link the video where she swatches the new colors, and you might want to check that out because they're quite beautiful. So some of the areas are hard to tell what it is, so I just kind of filled in with some random greens, a little bit of purple. Ideally, if you have your plate on an acrylic block, you can actually pick it up, turn it over, and look through it. Here I can look a little bit at an angle, I don't know if you can see that, to see if there's any other areas I want to fill in. I think right here it needs a bit. I'm going to leave some of these openings for the background color, and I'm going to try to fill in that a little bit more. But I see here there's some foliage that needs a bit more color. Now if you have like leaves and flowers that are very definite, this is kind of easier to do. But because I used weeds and it's just kind of, you know, a little bit haphazard, I have to kind of guess. Up in here. But it doesn't have to be perfect. A bit more on these. A little bit more in here. A bit more of that magenta here. So I'm just kind of picking it up and peeking through to see where there's maybe some missing pigment. I want to really get something quite solid. I'm going to use some white paint and paint behind the leaves. I'm just going to put a bit of paint here as my palette because we're not going to be picking up this area. Maybe I'll mix a little bit of green with it so that if it is not exactly where the leaves are, it won't look out of place. Let's just put a little bit of this green yellow iridescent. And I'm just going to use a regular paintbrush. Dip it in water. Let's see if you can see. Yeah, so you can see that just at the bottom of my screen there. So I'm just going to pick up green and the white. The white helps make this green a little bit more opaque. I'm just trying to back. This shouldn't move the Pan Pastels, but it will give us like a bold, I'm hoping a bolder look. And of course we have to let this dry. I don't know if I've painted behind pan pastels. I know I've, you know, I pick up the pan pastels with acrylic, but and I don't want to do too thick of a layer because I do want it to dry so that we can do the pickup. So I'm just trying to paint essence of greenery to really block that in. Again, I could lift up to see if it's an area that I'm not sure if it's a stem or what it is. I'm just trying to make some sort of squiggly shapes. So instead of using pan pastels, you could just paint in your shapes, paint in your foliage. But I do like the pigment the pan pastel provides. Hopefully we won't have like bits of white peeking out. It's pretty good. Now, behind the flowers, I think I'm going to use the PBO Iridescent Violet Blue. But maybe before I decide, I should think about what I'm going to use as my pickup. I think we'll do the copper in the background. A bit of this metallic orange with the white behind the orange flowers. Ooh, that's too thick. This flower doesn't know what color it wants to be, so I think I'm going to back it with a little bit of orange, and then we'll go to the pink. We'll see what it does. So I'm not 100% convinced this step is necessary, but I wanted to try it. So we'll do the orange with the white. And then behind the pink areas, we're just going to do this iridescent violet blue. I'm just going to, the pink, I'm just going to do it separately. Let me move my pan pastels so I don't get any wetness on them. So we're going to do this one first because we weren't sure how that was going to look. And you don't want your paint too thick because your pull layer is going to have to pull everything up, including this piece of paper. I think is that everything. Just a little bit here. Okay, we're going to let that dry, and then we'll do our pull, fingers crossed. Okay, so that only took a few minutes to dry. I'm going to rotate this way, and we're going to pick out our paper. I'm going to use this 32-pound hammer mill, and we're gonna go about there. So hopefully we get everything in. So we're gonna use parchment on the bottom. I'm just wondering if the parchment's gonna be too stark. Let's use this instead, this portrait. Should we use portrait pink? It's gonna pick up on this color. Maybe we do a mixture of the parchment and the portrait pink. And then we're gonna use this copper on the top and hope it's not too dark or too much metallic. So I'm just gonna mix off to the side here a little bit. So we're gonna mix that more or less. Okay, and a little bit more. You'd rather have too much than too little. And I'm really hopeful that this piece is gonna come up with it. If it doesn't, I suppose we can always just glue it on. So I'm gonna do the portrait pink down here. You want enough to pick up that. And then the copper. And I think I'm just gonna go across. Don't know why that little bit doesn't want to get wet. Hopefully that picks up. So I stood up there so that I could try to center it. And I just need a bigger piece of paper so I can press down firmly. So give that a good rub. Let that sit for a few minutes and then we'll see how it turns out. So I'm just using my little fan here to help the drying process. And let's see if that vase came up. Yeah, so our vase stuck, so that's good. I'm curious to see how the flowers look. That's an interesting little blip there. I think that's okay. There we go. So that's what's left. That might make an interesting ghost pull because we would have the shape of the vase. We could do our own thing. So I'll show a ghost pull of that with maybe some doodles on it as well at the end after the or before the Lucy footage. So here we have it. I feel like the copper kind of overshadowed the orange, but I don't mind it with the pink, and I think the green looks good with it. I'm not sure what that little blip is. There must have been a little, I can feel it's like a little thing of paint, like a little extra piece. I don't know if that was on the plate before. So this stuck down well. Let's just add a few little highlights to where I had the orange because it's too, it blends into the copper too much. Do we want to fix those imperfections? I love how these leaves turned out. I'll definitely do that technique again. I'm going to take this off the jelly plate. I'm going to pull this up with a white, and then I'll show you the doodles and the finished shading. Okay, so here's our 2 finished prints. This was the first one we did, and I had to alter the orange flowers to make them show. I like the vase that we did the collage Ashin way. I love how these 2 leaves worked out. I kind of like the spirally background from that placemat. And I don't mind this flower. I still like how that fabric gave us a nice tablecloth there. I like these colors that I chose. I just think maybe I should have done light pink or something else for those orange flowers. And then this is our ghost print. I'm not sure how much of this process I showed. I just pulled the ghost with white paint. I used Sumi ink with a paintbrush to add these little marks, just some orange acrylic paint, and just some loose sketchy outlines of the remaining pastel with a Sharpie pen. So I almost like this version better for me. Let me know which style you liked, and then I'm just going to show that little clip of Lucy and I collecting weeds, walking in the nature. I hope you guys had a good week, and I'll see you next week at my regular live stream Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. All right, thanks for watching. Here's Lucy. Bye-bye.